Hello, everybody. Welcome to another podcast of Tell Me Your Story. This is your host, Chris Baker. Hey, how you doing? How you doing? And today's guest is Miss Anna Utterback, right? That's how you say that?
That's good. It's
Utterback?
great. Yeah.
Welcome to the show. I appreciate you
Yeah,
coming on.
happy to be here.
Well, yeah. Well, let's get it started. Let's jump into this. Where does life begin for you?
Oh, well, kind of a loaded question. I could say a lot of things in that. But we'll start with the big journey for me really started in August of 22. And that's really where I've been focusing a lot of my growing and learning was my husband just unexpectedly moved out one day after we'd been married for 22 years, and I was away to work retreat and came home and he had moved out without telling me. So that's kind of the piece in my life that these last, almost 4 years now has just been a reframing, a reset, a realignment. Like, okay, God, what do I do? Like, this is just like out of nowhere. And when you think you've got it all figured out, or you think, you're going in the right direction, and then everything just goes whoop, and it was just a big, churning of new things, new emotions.
I mean, I agree because God works in mysterious ways, and it's sometimes, like you said, it's just unexpected things. You said 22 years,
Mhm.
and then you come home from a retreat. And what I mean, I feel like we're left on a cliffhanger. Was there tension going on before?
You know, not that I think it was one of those marriages where we were both just doing our thing.
hmm
There was not like a lot of arguing, there was not a lot of fighting. But I think what was happening is we were slowly almost like leading different lives in a sense. Um, and our children, we have two children. And so when I came home, he was just, he was sitting there waiting for me. And, I'm like, hey, how's it going? And he says, do you need help with your luggage? And I said, yeah, that'd be great. I said, there's still more stuff in the car. And so he went out to the car and I brought the luggage upstairs to the bedroom and all his things were gone. So he didn't even tell me. I look in the closet and empty his side. And so I came out of the bedroom and I looked at him. I said, are you leaving me? And he says, well, yeah, I moved out. I was, okay.
Well, at first, the way the story was going, at first, I thought you were gonna say like, "Yeah, I came home from my retreat and he was just gone. I haven't seen him since."
No, he was sitting there. And so I literally had to ask him. And and I'm going, okay, so are we getting a divorce? Like what is happening? And he says, well, no, we're just separated. Okay, but what does that mean? And as like a woman who is a high executive administrative person, I was a teacher, all of these kinds of things, you plan stuff out, you got to know things. And so it was just so ambiguous. Like, we're just going to be separated. Like, there was he wanted to get back to a friendship in an organic kind of way.
Okay.
So, which, okay, but you're married. I see you every day for 22 years of my life. We talk all the time. We got kids. And now all of a sudden you're just going to live somewhere else and communicate whenever you feel like it.
Yeah. So, I mean, tell me, like, what was going through your head at that time? I mean, you just got back from your retreat. Was it like, am I dreaming? Is this actually happening? What was going through your mind?
It was all the emotions. It was just, I think I was just in so much shock of like, how did we get here? What did I miss? how did I not see this coming? You know, it was just all of the stuff, and there was anger and grief and hurt and sadness, you know, everything just. And so I tell people, like, I don't remember like specifics of the conversation because of the emotional aspect of it. I don't want to say things like he said this, I said, you know, I just kind of like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because I just don't really remember. But he did have he typed up a piece of paper of talking points, and he read through it. And, you know, I'm just sitting there staring at this piece of paper like
What's going
seriously.
on?
Like,
What's happening?
so for me, it was just a lot of like shock and like, okay, how did I get here? You know, what is really going on? And so he walked out the door, he left. And so I was just standing there, and it was like, okay. I walked straight into the kitchen. I poured out all my alcohol, put all the stuff in the recycle bin. I ate a clean diet. I got rid of dairy, sugar, carbs, everything. It was all just fruits, vegetables, and meat, clean meat, and turned the television off. No TV. I did that for 30 days, and I only
Wow.
listened to worship music. And because I don't know, I guess God was preparing me for this moment, but it was like I knew in this moment I had to think as clearly as possible, because the boys still lived with me. They're going through this just like I am on another
Yeah.
level. And not only that, but they were home watching him move his stuff out. And so they watched it. And so I just had to lean in to whatever this was, like this mess. And I decided to just take it on, and I removed the distractions so that way I could seek God and like, what do I do? Like, what, how do I fix this?
All right. I feel like we're jumping into the middle of your story. Let's take it back a notch. That way, the people that are watching, listening right now, they can kind of catch up. Let's go. Let's jump back to like the very beginning. Like, where were you born at? Then we'll get back
Sure.
to this.
Yeah. I was raised in Kansas, middle of Kansas, middle of nowhere. I'm the fifth child of 8. And we just grew up like in the middle of nowhere, had fun. My family was Catholic. They're all still
Okay.
Catholic. And so it was just a big Catholic family. And then my parents felt the need to move to Colorado. So we moved to Durango, Colorado, where I did middle school, high school, college, did all that. And then in my mid 20s, I met who I would marry. And we got engaged, and we moved to the Denver area. So we lived there. I became a believer, a born again believer, when I was pregnant with our first child. And so I was actually 29 years old when that happened, and really just devoted my life to God in that moment and on another level. And I remember when I accepted Jesus, I just told him, I said, wow, I was like, I'm so sorry, God, for being so close to you, but not acknowledging who you really are. And so
Yeah.
that was like the big piece for me. And then from that point, I really just dove into scripture.
And then,
Yep.
like you said, that really like played a big factor, and I mean, just how that all played out for you. Because most people, like you hear this, people are watching, listening. You're thinking to yourself, she did the complete opposite of what everybody else would do. You dumped out all the alcohol. You got rid of all the junk that's in your fridge, and you started eating fruits and vegetables. And for, you said, what, 30 days? The next 30
Mm-hmm.
days, you were just cleansing yourself, putting
Yep.
yourself one on one with the Creator.
Mm-hmm.
And did it help you a lot, though? Would you say? Because I know it probably did, but
It's the only thing that got me through, because like I still had to work full time, and I worked for a large church. I was the executive coordinator, and so I still had to be very focused every day. I had one kid still in high school, and the other one worked actually with his dad, so I had to still do all of that. And and so I had this weird piece of walking through it all. And it was emotional. I mean, I spent a lot of time, I went into my bedroom and I would scream into my pillow because of all the frustration and the, because there's so much grief in that. I've been with this man for over 22 years and now he's just gone. And I really don't understand why.
Yeah, because you
And
didn't like. Did you guys actually have like a conversation about it? Like,
mhm,
why you decided? Like, what was the reason? He just like you didn't feel the connection no more. You just
he just, I know he's told me, and I don't think there was like an actual, like real definitive reason other than he just didn't want to do it anymore. I just really don't, I can't really speak for him, but that's kind of because what it came down to it is this is when after about 6 months of navigating this, God, because I was hiding, I wasn't really telling people because I felt so much shame because I felt like a failure. Like, you know, how could I do this? How could I have not seen this coming? Like, how did I miss it? I thought I had this great marriage and I was completely wrong. And so I hid in shame and didn't really tell people. And then we do a week of prayer and fasting where the church I worked for, we started the year with that in January. And so I was sitting there with God and he's told me three things very, very clearly. You are dearly loved, stop hiding, and you're going to be all right. And so in that moment is when I finally started telling people that he had moved out and I was navigating this separation. And then really giving that, sitting more with God, being more open with that. And with that, I wrote my second book. That's where that second book came out of. Separated, not divorced. My husband moved out. Now what? And that book is just really like what I did. Like, do you wear your wedding ring? Do you not? Do you date? Do you don't date? Do you, like I tell him I poured out the alcohol, all of the kind of like tips and tricks, practicality of what you do when you're separated, because there's nothing out there that helps you guide your way through that. Every book, everything I found was all either my husband and I went through this and then we got counseling and now we have the best marriage ever, or we got a divorce, I have the best life ever. But what do you do while you're in it? Because that was where I was at. And so I wrote this book to help people who are sitting in it. Like, what do I do? How do I navigate this? And God was 100% center of that because without him, I couldn't have gotten out of bed. I mean, I started to force myself every morning to wake up and say, this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it.
yep,
And
yeah.
I didn't feel it, many times, but I still said it and got up and was like, no, I'm prioritizing my time with God. And I would read scripture and read it, and I would get nothing, because sometimes you just don't hear anything, but it's like, no, I'm going to keep my eyes there because I didn't know what else to do. And with that, God started to say, because my verse that have always resonated with me is Psalm 139:23-24. Search my heart, O God. Test me, know my anxious thoughts. And so that's what I was praying. Like, God, what's my peace? Because I could sit here and say all these things and blame him and say, oh, well, he did this, he did that, all of the blame stuff. But it's like, but I was in that marriage too.
Yeah.
So what was my piece? How can I fix me? Because if I'm a better version of me, then I'm going to be better for my marriage, for my kids, for others, and then or am I going to be single? Well, now I'm still a better version of me.
Hmm. What would your advice be to somebody that's going through it right now? It's dealing with the same thing. It's coming home from, hopefully it's not exactly the same way, but
Yeah.
just have a
Well,
lot of questions.
yeah. Well, and that's exactly what my book answers all those things. It's like, okay, stay off social media. Don't go there. Don't do like, don't change your social media status. Don't do ambiguous, vague things of like, oh, you guys just pray for me, or all of that kind of stuff. Just don't. Just stay off social media, and then get your circle very, very small, and make sure that your circle, the people you're surrounding yourself with, are the kind of people that are going to pray for you and sit with you in it, not friends or family that are going to tell you what to do or how to do it if it's not seeking God first. Because you'll hear all kinds of stuff in the culture. Divorce is easy, just get it done, move on, get on with your life. All of that kind of stuff can be thrown at you. And that's from a Christian perspective and a non-Christian perspective. You'll hear it all. And so I needed for me to make sure I did everything I could to work on this relationship. I wasn't going to just throw it in. And so if you're walking through it, get your circle small so that way you hear fewer opinions of what to do, and seek counseling. Seek a counselor, because you've got to be able to say all of the hurt and all the garbage without that person then changing their mind about your spouse.
Yeah.
You don't want that. You don't want to do that to your friends. So that way, when they see him, they're they're trying to be nice, but
They're
they
like, how could you do that, man? What was your problem?
Yes.
What did
Yes.
she ever do to you? But yeah,
Uh-huh.
like you're hitting it right on the head. Like, you can't just, if you don't know the true story, don't attack somebody or judge them for something they did. There's a lot of reasonings behind everything, and I'm pretty sure you guys did you guys at least talk about it, like, in the long run?
Oh, yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, we reached a point where it had been about 8 months, 8 to 10 months, navigating the separation. And that's what I call my big gulp moment. That's when we came to a head. Like, he said he was done. And so I said, okay, this was over the phone. And I said, okay, but we need to see each other. We need to look at each other. And I said, where are you at? And he said, well, I'm at the 7-Eleven. I said, great, I'll be right there. So I drove to the 7-Eleven, which is kind of like the term big gulp moment came from as well, because 7-Eleven. And yeah. And so it was in that
I got
moment.
that.
Yeah, I know, right? It was in that moment that it's like, you've got to say something, you have to do something. And that's how I felt. But I didn't do it out of emotion. I didn't do it out of anger or anything. It was just like, okay. And I just walked up to him and I looked at him. I said, hey, if you look at me right now and say, F you, I'm done, I will walk away and grant you a divorce. And it was in that moment that I finally released the outcome of my marriage to God. Because I was holding on to the only way this was going to work is if we stayed married.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see it any other way. And God was like, I am bigger, give it to me. And so I finally reached that outcome, because I'd been praying for him. I pray for my kids, pray for, all of that. But I hadn't just said, okay, God, here's my marriage. Because your identity, you define, well, how am I going to define myself if I'm no longer a wife? That messes up my identity. And it's like, that's not where our identity comes from. God's like, your identity is not based on your marital status.
So how long ago did this happen?
So that conversation happened it was about May of 23. So like I said, it was almost a year after he had left. And from that point, he did not want a divorce, but he finally agreed to do marriage counseling. So, because I told him, I said, we need a third party in the room. Like, we're not communicating. We're not hearing each other. I don't hear you. You don't hear me. It's like, we need a third party to help us have a conversation if we have any chance of making this work. And so he agreed. And so we went to a Christian marriage counselor for a year.
And what was like his big reasonings though? That why he just did he just lose the the connection, the love? He was there a mutual interest? What was going on?
I honestly, I couldn't 100% tell you, because I think it changed. There was never another person. I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, he did not have an affair. There was not another person." He
Sorry,
really
sorry, buddy. I mean that's what you were looking for, right? You were expecting the big reveal. No,
no,
that's not
no,
always the case.
no. He really likes to work. He loves work. He loves entrepreneurship. He um, loves to spend. That's where he spent his time. Even during our marriage, because once I kind of started doing this with God, releasing things, I started to see the relationship more clearly instead of through my rose-colored glasses, and realized just how much he worked and how little he was actually present.
And then, okay, so that's what I was going to ask you next. So, what did God reveal to you about? I mean, just to give you more clarity because that's what God does. He gives you an understanding. Because at first, when it happens, we're just like, why, God, why? What are you doing this to me for? Well, I've been good. I've been so good to you. Why are you doing this to me? I mean, it kind of reminds me of the book of Job when I say that just now.
Hmm.
Job lost everything. But
Yep.
eventually, even with, like you said, even with his close circle, all his friends, everybody was trying to pull him in all different directions, but Job kept the faith, and that's exactly what you did there. You kept the faith, and how? Well, I mean, what was like I said, what was God showing you? What clarity was He giving you?
Well, just what happened was is after that year of counseling, we reached a point where we went through all the nitty gritty, and it was like, okay, so now it's ready to like take the next step, right? And so I said, it's time to like retry this. We need to move back in together. And we kind of talked about it for about a month, and finally I'm like, am I looking for a house for us or for me? And he said, you're looking for you. He said, I'm not ready yet. And so it was in that moment, when he said that, I was like, hmm, I'm gonna have to think about that. Because I had been sitting in this ambiguity for like 2 years, like almost 2 years. And I'm like, seriously, still? Like, you don't want to move back in? We didn't even talk every day. We didn't even see each other. It was just this weird thing. And so I just was like, okay. I said, I'm going to go see our counselor by myself. And he said, okay, because in marriage counseling, you have to make sure that you're, upfront about all of that stuff. And so I went with just her, and I said, what do I don't know, what do I do? And she handed me a piece of paper on biblical divorce. And that just like took me off guard, because I'm thinking, okay, here's this woman who's been sitting with us for a year, listening to all of our garbage, and this is what she's showing me. And
Yeah,
so,
she's basically saying like, I see it. I mean, it's
yeah,
just we could keep trying, but it's not there no more.
yeah. And so what I did is I told my husband what she said, and I just told him, I said, I need time to think about this. I'm going to sit with God, and I don't want any contact. I don't want to hear from you. I don't want you to come by the house. Just, I need some time with just God and to really focus on this. And so I spent 40 days and 40 nights with God, really praying and trying to figure out, what do I do? And at the end, God simply said, I give you permission. And it was like, wow, like, okay, I have permission. He didn't say do it. He didn't say don't do it. He just said, it's your choice. You have my permission to walk away. And so I told my husband that. We met for dinner. And from that moment on, God really showed me how to hold up healthy boundaries. Because during this time, during my self reflection, I learned I'm codependent. So I was like, oh, that's not good. Like, I need to fix that. And so I went through a workbook, and to heal my pieces of my codependency. I'm also a peacemaker. Every, personality test, I'm this advocate, I'm this peace person, a judge, like both sides, that's how I am. And so I realized, like, throughout our marriage, I was trying to keep peace in the home, but it was my definition of peace. That's not helpful for everyone else in the room, And so for me, I'm like,
Mhm.
no, it's so peaceful. And they're like, no, it's not. You know what I mean? Things God was showing me, you need to heal from this. You need to change. That's not healthy. That's not good. You can't control. You can't, all of the stuff. And so that's what I was working on for me to get rid of that. And so through that, I realized I needed to show my emotion when I had emotion and be more forthright in my feelings, and and hold up healthy boundaries. And so that's how I then started to navigate the separation, was in God's new light of, like, this is who you are. This is who I created you to be. Now walk it out in a healthy way. And so I did. And through that time, that is when my eyes were opened even more to, like, this isn't a relationship. This
No,
this isn't. Because if I didn't contact him, we never talked.
he wouldn't have to. Yeah, you'd never hear from him.
Nope. If I didn't set up the date, it may or may not happen. I just quit making the counseling appointments. He never asked. I just quit making them.
And that was God's way of showing and revealing to you, like, you're the
Mhm.
only one that's actually doing the work.
Mhm.
You know, it's like God makes it more clearly. So you're like, if you were to stop right now, what you ended
Mhm.
up doing, then you see firsthand that it's been you the whole time, and that's
Mhm.
that's not what you want.
No, that's not a
Sorry, but I
relationship.
hate to pop the bubble, but
Yeah. No, it's not good. So we kept going, and then, like I said, I held up a lot of, like, there was no more intimacy. I didn't do that. There was nothing. I was like, no. It's like, if you don't want me emotionally, you don't get me physically. That's all there is to it. And so I really just started to hold that. And finally, in January, I remember it was January of 25, we were together during New Year's, and I asked him, I'm like, so what are you, he's a big goal guy, because he's business entrepreneur, right? And so I was like, well,
Mhm.
what are your goals for the year? And he just, loved to talk about that, talked about his business and how he's gonna, all the things. And I was like, okay, how about your relationships? Do you got any goals for you and I? It's like, do I fit in that? And he was like, well, I just need to get over my expectations and grievances, and you just need to work on your stuff with God.
So,
That was it.
does he have a personal relationship with God at all, or is
Oh,
he
yes, he's the one that led me to Jesus.
okay?
Yeah, so
Because that's what
100%.
I was kind of
Yes,
curious about too. I was like, well,
yes.
some you always hear about that too. Like sometimes,
Mhm.
when the faith is not matching,
Yeah, no,
that's
he's
what
got it.
leads.
Mhm. No, he's got it. And so after he said that, I just looked at him and I said, I said, you got what you wanted. I said, you and I are friends, but that's it. And so, we still kind of just whatever for a couple months. And then finally in March, I said, we need to talk. And so we met, and I just looked at him and I said, I think it's time we go our separate ways. It's like, this just isn't going anywhere. And he said, I never wanted a divorce. And I said, but the problem is you also don't want to be married. I
Yeah.
said, at least not a biblical marriage. And I said, I'm out of alignment with God and I can't do it anymore because this isn't marriage. And I said, I want to do it as amicably as possible. The divorce, and we did. It was very amicable. We didn't hire lawyers. We just hired a mediator, and we walked through the divorce process, and that was final in October of 25. And, it's crazy because, God at the beginning of the year of 25, God, gives you a word or, kind of guides you through, like, what are my goals? What am I going to work on? And he gave me the word fruitful. And so here I am in January 26. I'm divorced. I left my job. I live on my own, because at the time my boys were old enough and we all empty nested, we all moved out at the same time. And I live in a new community and, all these things are different. And I was like, okay, God, you told me fruitful. I'm like, I don't feel fruitful. Like, wow. And he says, wait a minute. He says, don't you have peace? And I was like, yeah, like I've never had the amount of peace and joy in my life that I have now. Like it just oozes out of me. And then he started to tell me, he goes, my fruitfulness is that of the Holy Spirit. He's like, you have goodness, you have kindness, you're faithful, you have self-control, you have forgiveness. And I was like, oof, I am fruitful.
Tell me more, Lord. Tell me more.
I was like, got it. Because we go through this worldly view of what fruitful is, and the fruitfulness of God is so much more than what the world could ever offer. And so that was just like, wow, like, thank you, God.
But like, really, let's get real about that. Like, it feels so good. It does. It feels, like, even when I think about it right now, it's just like, dude, I mean, I feel bad for anybody that doesn't have a relationship with God, man. The creator of all this around you. I mean, just you take it all in every day. The beauty, man. And you just feel that love, that peace, that understanding, that clearance. All of it. You're never stressed. You're never worried because you know who's in control. And that's what I said. You can, like, I'm seeing it clear as day over here. Like you said, it's oozing out of you.
Yeah.
You see the creator at work and what he's done in your life. Like, most people will probably think that you're in your early 20s because of it, because God's doing incredible. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, that beauty that's just radiating out, this is radiating off of you. I mean, just a compliment. Just I'm not hitting.
Well, thank you. And I'm considerably older.
Sorry, fellas. Sorry, fellas.
Yeah. And so, like, just God is so good, and he's starting to, like, I'm now remembering things that I used to love, to do, and just coming back to who God created me to be, coming back to myself and being like, wow, I hid myself away for so many years and didn't even realize it. And it's not his fault. You know what I mean? So I don't want people to hear that. He wasn't like pushing me down and being like, no, you can't, it wasn't like that. But I was losing myself in the relationship, in my performance, what I thought I was doing was right. Like I said, I was codependent. I was a peacemaker. So I wasn't hitting all the marks. But God released me from all of that.
You said you ended up leaving your job, though. I mean, did you enjoy the job? What made you decide to say it's not for me?
Love the job, love the people. And it was just interesting because it's a great church. It's a fantastic, I love all the people. And like I said, I was an executive coordinator, and they were restructuring, so they did this. We were going through a point where they were giving people options of, some of these jobs won't be here in a few months. We don't know which ones exactly. So you may or may not have a job. This is the package we're offering. What do you want to do? And so they did that, for the staff. And I was like, well, whether I stayed or left, I was going to get the same severance package because of how long I'd worked there. And so I just told him, I said, I'll stay through the transitions, because they did 2 waves. They did 1 wave and then they did another one. And so I just felt at peace, like God is like, he was ready for me to move on. And like I said, I loved the job, I loved the people, and they wanted me to stay. They would have found a place for me had I, really wanted it. But I just knew I just needed to change. I needed to step into what God wanted me to do. And I'd gotten my certification for Kingdom Life Coaching. And so I've written Bible studies. So now I'm a certified coach. I write Bible studies. I do group coaching. And so he was stepping me into something bigger. And I had to be willing to take that step. And this was my step. This was my open door. And so they were like, okay, here's your last day. And I said, okay, great. We were both high-fiving each other, like, yay, it was a good thing. And I'm still friends with all of them. So, yeah. And so I just stepped out of that, stepped into more of what God wanted me. And to be honest, Chris, like, I got to say, I kind of just walked around my house kind of like a zombie for a couple months. My body needed to detox. I didn't realize how much stress and anxiety I was holding on to. I would have migraines. I would have stomach issues. I had all of this physical mess, and I don't anymore. I don't get migraines. I barely get headaches. And I go to the bathroom regularly. And my body is finally needed to just release. And I had no idea. And so had I stayed at that job, I would have just kept going.
Keep that routine, yeah.
I wouldn't have paused. I wouldn't have sat with God the way that I sat with God. I mean, I was getting up at 5:00 and I was spending an hour with God because that is how I needed to start my day. And so
Amen to that. Amen
I
to
still
that.
do that. Yes, I do. I got up early. And because it's like, if I don't start there, the rest of my day is wackadoodle. And you can get off track so quickly. All it takes is sleeping in one time, or you have something else, and then, you start to backtrack. But if you can get to that habit of that prioritization of like, no, God first, it just changes. And that's where like that peace and joy come from, because
Exactly.
that's what I do. And it's like, and so I wouldn't change that for anything. And so it was so good that I left that job, because I wouldn't have the physical, emotional, mental healing as much as I do now if I'd have stayed, because I would have still worked. I would have, been commuting my day, all the things. But I was able, God blessed me to be able to just sit with him even longer during the divorce process and stuff like that, to get through all of that in the best way I could.
No, I completely understand what you're saying, because when you get away into that quiet place, you get into that routine. It just makes your whole day different. When you have that one-on-one with God for, an hour, 2 hours, depending on how long you do it. But it is. It changes the course of your day. You feel like the best way I could describe it is like when you start working out, you start looking at yourself, you start saying to yourself like, yeah, I feel good. I'm feeling good. At first it's like, it's kind of like, but you do it a period of time, eventually you start feeling like, yeah, okay, I'm feeling good. I'm seeing the results. That's how it is when you're with God. You do that prayer every day. You're hanging out with the creator of the universe, the whole world, everything around you. And then God starts to, pull back the layers, and your life starts showing you stuff, starts revealing stuff to you. You start foreseeing stuff like that's happening in the future. You start seeing your true gifts through God. I love it though. I love waking up, and that's the first thing I always do. I always say, thank you, Lord, for another day, another blessing. Because it truly is. You wake up and you're ready to rock and roll. I don't know what's before me, God, but be with me every step of the way.
Mhm. Yep. Mhm.
And yeah, you see it firsthand. Just
Yeah.
you're in a routine. You get up every day at 5 o'clock. I know somebody else that does the same thing too. She was recently on here not too long ago,
Mhm.
and she actually has like a little prayer thing that she does every day. Kelsey,
Mhm.
I'm talking about you. Who's you watching this?
Nice.
But yeah, I totally agree with you. And I got to get back into it though. I kind of been slacking. I'm
Mhm.
not the perfect one over here. I've been slacking.
It's easy to, yeah, because like I said, or if you get sick and you need more rest, I mean, it's amazing how quick you can get off kilter. And
Oh, your
so,
routines, yeah.
yeah, you have to get back on it because I got off kilter, for a little bit and I was still spending time with God, but it wasn't the same. And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
I got to get back to this. Like, come on, girl, you know?
Yeah, and like you said though, it gave you that clarity. So like once you got out of the workplace, you started
Mhm.
seeing how like toxic it was on your body. You realized it was doing a lot of wear and tear on you, and you like you said you were having migraines. You were pacing
Mhm.
back and forth because you getting that routine of being at work,
Mhm.
and then it's got the way it's showing you like you didn't see this, but this is actually what it was really doing to you. And I'm really want to reach out to the person right now that's in that spot in their life where
Mhm.
they feel comfortable, but they're ready to move on, and they don't know they're hitting that fork in the road is the best way to say it. Trust
Mhm.
God, have
Yep.
faith, and know that He's leading you to where you need to be. I felt like that one time in my life where I was 23, and I was connected. I had a friend, and I felt like it was me and my friend versus the world. But then God started revealing to me and saying, no, Chris, if you want to move and do more stuff with your life, you're going to have to let him go. And I'm like,
Mhm.
no, man, no, this is my friend for life. I can't let him go. And then that's when God started revealing to me is like, if you hold on to all this stuff that I'm showing you, you're never going to be able to see it. You're never going to be able to get there. You eventually will, but it's going to take you a long time.
Mhm.
That, he's done his part in your life. It's time for you to hit the fork in this road. He goes his way and you go your way. And when I did that, I mean, was it uncomfortable at first? Yes, very uncomfortable. I had to let go a lot of people, go a completely different way. And my life changed a whole lot. Like 2 years later, who would have thought 2 years later that I would meet the love of my life? Because you would have asked me when I was 23 then. I would have told you, no way, it's not even in the sight, man, not even close. But yes, 2 years later, I had my license. I was driving now instead of taking trains and planes and flying all over the place. Going all over the place. I was flying driving because I played a big part in my, finding her. And then once I met her, it was incredible because I was traveling all over the place because now I didn't have to take a train or a plane. I could actually have my own vehicle. And what's crazy about this is where she was at, like every location I was at, she was right in the middle of it. And if you were to pull out a map, it made a heart. It made a heart where she was at. Because the crazy part leading up to that was I asked God, I was like, when am I going to find the love of my life? Where is
Mhm.
she at? And God was like, okay, you want to see? I'll show you. Because I know that you're going to actually look this up. You're going to see it on a map one day. You're going to be wild. You're going to be blown away. That God already knows. I know I'm completely going into my own story here, so I'll go back to you. I
No,
apologize.
no, I
Sorry.
think it's great. I love it.
Starting to reveal stuff about the host over here. Maybe one day you'll learn more.
No, that's good stuff. I love it. I love a conversation. It doesn't need to be all about me. So I love to hear your story and how God works through each and every one of us and
Yeah.
how he reveals and the different timing of it and how he reveals it. It's beautiful.
To finish it off, I'll say this. Where I was at when I was 23, and then when I met my wife, I went in until now, even. Now I'm going to be 33. That's, 10 years later. I know, everybody. I know. But my life took a completely different, for the better. I'm doing so much better now. I love my life. My buddy, he's still doing the same thing, still living the same circle, still hanging out with the same people. And I'm not knocking him or anything, but I'm showing you that sometimes God does things to let you know, like, do you want to be in the same circle of life, or do you want to advance? Do you want to level up, like most people would say, or do you
Mhm.
want to get to where we want to be in life? Because yes, it's scary at first, but trust God. That's all I can tell you. Just trust God, and He'll do the rest for you. Go in faith with everything. Trust
Mhm.
what your gut's telling you. Whatever, God is revealing stuff to you, and He's pulling back those layers for a reason, because He wants what's best for you. Mic drop. So, you said you started getting into coaching after
Mhm.
you left your job. I mean, what got you into coaching? What made you decide that this is what I want to do?
Well, it kind of just fell into my lap, to be honest. I was a part of another community, and we were doing a movement maker challenge and stuff. And so I paid for that, and they decided to end that early. And so with their company, they said, here's your other options. They gave us like 3 options. You can have these for free. We can just give you like a refund, or we can give some affiliate people, that we work with, you can get a discount for their programs. And I was like, okay, like what do I do? Because I'm looking at these things like, I don't know. So I asked my coach. I said, hey, like, what do I do? Which one, what's the best option? She goes, oh, you need to be a Kingdom Life coach. I was like, oh, okay. And so I just got into the program. I didn't have to pay any money, and jumped right in and started doing all the calls. I got my certification. I did all my practicum hours. I took the test. It was like a legit certification. And so it just fell into my lap. It wasn't something I was pursuing, but what I realized is it was taking all of these gifts that God gave me and making it into something like, oh, like I can do this. Like, wow, like this is really cool. And so a lot of my coaching is also very dependent also on inner heart healing. I do a lot of like in-depth thing, because again, it comes from us. We have to fix us. We can't keep blaming others in the world for where we're at, because we made choices. We made decisions. So we need to start owning
Yeah.
our decisions.
You got to own
And
up to it.
yeah, really do. Like, come on, it's time. And so, yeah, so that's a lot of like the kind of coaching I do. And I did, like I said, I wrote a Bible study, which I do group coaching with, which is called Stop the Bleed, which is based on, Mark chapter 4, the bleeding woman. And so it really helps women figure out, like, where is that bleed? And that's what God was showing me through all of the separation and divorce, was like, you've been bleeding out for years, and
Think
it's
about that
time.
for hold on. Let's think about
Mhm.
that for a minute. Somewhere in, man and woman, you are, let's translate that, because a lot of people don't look at that story like that for a reason. But this lady was bleeding for, what
Mhm.
was it, like 30 years or something like that?
12,
For
12 years.
12 years. Yeah, she was bleeding for a while. But
Mhm.
she mustered up enough faith that she said, if I even just touch the cloth of Jesus, it will
Mhm.
heal me. And think about
Mhm.
this. So picture it in your mind. You're walking, and there's, Jesus is creating this big crowd. He's got a scene, he's got people all around him. And this is the olden days. So you're out in the desert, it's hot. Everybody's wearing these clothes that are kind of keeping you cool, but you're kind of sweaty, and everybody's kind of probably stinky too, because deodorant, I don't really know if it existed yet, but you got everybody walking around, everybody's there, and you're thinking, I just got to get to him somehow. Just touch this guy. And you've been
Mhm.
dealing with this thing for 12 years, bleeding nonstop, and you've gone to every doctor that you can to try to figure out how to do it. And maybe you are right now. You're dealing with something that you're bleeding out. You're feeling that right now in this moment. And you're just trying to find that solution, that, how do I get this taken care of? And that, take the advice of what this lady did. she said, if I just touched the cloth of him, I will be healed. And Matt, Jesus had everybody around him. But the second she touched him, he felt it. And you wonder, what do you mean? He felt the faith of that woman. And instantly she was healed because of her faith. Because she believed that if she would just touch the cloth, man, it would heal.
Mhm.
And that's where you're at right now. You need to
Mhm.
go to God. Whatever you're dealing with, and just give it to him. And know that it's going to be all right. That God's going to heal you and get you where you need to be. Trust God. Because he's still got a plan for you. And you put your hand over your heart, you feel that? It's beating. That's purpose. You still got some in your life right now. So don't worry. It's not the end. God's still got a plan for you. I'm getting deep over here. I'm sorry. I'll pass it back over to you.
Mhm. Yeah. No, yeah, that is the story. And so it's just walking through her story and then figuring out where our bleed is, because I mean, how many times have you heard people say, I'm just tired of being tired? And some it's that emotional like bleed, it's that fatigue. And it's something that happened so many years ago that you don't even realize it happened. But something changed, something shifted. Somebody said something, somebody did something, and you shifted in the way that you acted. And so now it's like figuring out getting back to that and healing that and having that faith because like you talked about that the bleeding woman. I mean, you got to think there were a lot of people, but everyone had to have known who she was, and she was unclean. And so she's in a crowd of people. Well, nobody wants to be around her.
Mm-hmm.
People could have been shouting insults, yelling unclean, unclean. And she faced all, I mean, how many times will we not do something because we're so afraid of an opinion of another person?
Yep.
She was like, I don't care what people are going to say. I don't care what they shout at me. I'm doing this. And so that's that walking in spite of the fear, walking and out, obeying God in spite of being fearful. That's what she did. And then not only that, the other thing that really stuck with me with that story was, like you said, she touched the cloth and Jesus felt it. But how, and he was surrounded by all these other people, shoving, all these other people were touching Jesus and not getting healed. How many times do you sit close to Jesus and don't get healed because you don't reach out in faith?
Yep.
Because you're just going to church, you're just doing the Bible study, you're just going to the group, but you're not sitting and really trusting God with everything. You're
Are you just
sitting
going through the motions? Are you actually living it?
yeah. So
Because that's beautifully said. It's like you gotta you touch on that, man. Are you living in faith? Or are you just going through the motions? Are you on autopilot? Are you actually living for God? Because
mhm,
it's one thing to say something, but if you're actually living for the Creator, you feel it. You see the miracles, you see the healing. And like she
mhm,
said, all these people were actually touching Jesus, but they weren't being healed. That means you're listening, you're following, but you're not actually believing.
mhm.
And I'm not saying just because you're touching them and you're not getting your results, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
Chris, I do believe, I believe. Truly, truly put your faith in Him. Give up on
Mhm,
everything. Forget what everybody else says. This is just you and God.
mhm,
And the rest will be, it will help you. You'll be at peace. God will do
mhm.
wonders in your life.
Yep.
Is this a podcast? Or are we preaching? Are we at a sermon? Are we having?
It's just a good conversation.
Tell me like a great story of just people that you've talked to, your clients, you coach. What was what was your like? Do you remember your first ever phone call?
Coaching call.
Yep.
Yeah. She's she's still with me today. We still do coaching. She still has me coaching her, and just seeing how far she's come and seeing how, like, starting to see things, like one of my clients, her parents, her dad would always say, he would do something and he'd be like, "Man, that was stupid. I'm so stupid." Just kind of as, just like to himself, right? And so she picked up on that stuff too. Like at work, she would do something. She goes, "Man, that was dumb. I'm such a dum dum." And I was like, "Whoa, do you realize what you're doing?" I was like, "You're calling yourself dumb almost daily. Is that how God sees you?" And she was like, "Well, no." And it's like everyone makes a mistake. And it was just like an innocent thing. She didn't realize, but it's like that kind of stuff. It's like, okay. And then that's when we got to mirror, go back to her childhood of like, wow, like this is just something like her dad wasn't calling her stupid. He wasn't making her feel bad. So it wasn't like this abusive, crazy thing, but it was like when she heard that, she just picked it up herself. And it's like, wow, how many times have we done that? And so it's just recognizing. So my coaching is like helping you recognize those kinds of things of like change your inner conversation.
Yeah.
Because God doesn't see you that way. So don't sit here and put yourself down because he's not doing that. And so that's a lot, the coaching is really based on the three pillars of life, which are health, wealth, and relationships. And so we just dive in, to what area you want to work on. But it was just, that's one of the testimonies of like, her getting freedom from that and being like, wow.
I mean, just like the small things like that, just habits
Mhm.
of it just, we don't realize how much that controls our thinking, our patterns, You just got to work on your mindset. You got to think of like, you find yourself like when you make mistakes, you do. You say it by
Mhm.
not purposely trying to call yourself, like, oh,
Mhm.
I'm stupid.
Yeah.
No, you gotta catch that. It's like, oh, so
Mhm.
whoever's watching this, listening right now, that you caught that. It's like the glass shattering effect. You're like, hey, wait, I actually do that myself. I need to work on that. Like, yes, we all make
Mhm.
mistakes. You
Yeah.
say like, oh, okay, I got this. Don't worry. I'll
Yeah.
make up for it. Stay positive. Don't be a negative person. Be positive.
Yes.
Don't beat yourself up, man. Because
Mhm.
if you beat yourself up constantly, it's gonna be hard to get through the day. But if you're like, oh, have a sense of humor too
Mhm.
about it. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I made a mistake. That's okay. I'll make up for it. I got this.
Mhm.
Stay, keep it lit. Keep your positivity. Stay smiling and like, it's okay. I got this. We all make mistakes. I'm gonna make
Mhm.
this up. Here we go. Let's rock and roll, baby.
Yeah.
All right, as we begin to wrap this thing up, I just simply want to say thank you for coming on, man, and sharing your story. I know it's hard for some people to, especially, I mean, it's what you went through, but having God in your life played a big factor in helping you out along the way.
Mhm. Yeah, and just for like your listeners out there too, it's like if you're sitting, I mean, we reach a point, and I had reached a point where my comfort zone was so painful that pain of staying there was greater than the pain of walking the journey out to get on the other side. And so if you find yourself in that space of like you hate where you're at, there's something, the pain, it's not comfort anymore, it's just pain. And you get that courage to just take that step. And like the bleeding woman did, she got the courage to just take that step and reached out to God because he'll walk you through and get you out on the other side. And
No
that's where
matter
that
what it
trust.
is that you're going through.
Yes. It's like there's people out there that will help you and guide you along the way.
Yep. Because you're not the only one that's going through this.
Mhm.
Somebody else. That's why I love doing this podcast, because somebody right now heard your story, Anna, and believe they're in the same boat, going through the same thing, and I just heard your
Mhm.
story, and it gave them. They're like, I haven't been going to God. She got through it. Look at her. She's radiating with light. You could see it. It's just glowing all over her. And now I got to do the same thing. I got to go to God and talk to Him, give it all to Him, and just let Him, take it, give it to the Lord, and He'll give me His peace and yoke.
Amen.
All right, let's wrap this thing up with 3 questions. All right,
Okay.
question number 1. What is your favorite color?
What is what?
Your favorite color?
My favorite color? It's a shade. I like blues. Blue, definite.
Blue. I'm kind of like in between. I like blue and red. Some days I like blue, some days I like red. Question number 2. Let's get kind of personal and let's pull back a layer. Had you not had faith or were connected to God during that time period when you came home and He left everything, where would you be?
I'd probably be in that marriage and I would still be living in that same house and miserable and sad.
Going through the motions, yeah.
Still in denial that everything was great.
Question number 3. Okay. I'll allow myself to pass the microphone over to you to ask me a question.
What brought you to, really, what is a key moment in your life where you stepped out in faith and reached out to Jesus's cloak? What would you say was your biggest moment other than the one you already talked about?
I don't know. I mean, that's a good question because when I really pull back the layer on that, the question itself, there's been a lot of moments actually where I've had to start, if I'm being real about it, I've had a lot of moments where, not everything is sunshine and rainbows, but when I go through hard times, to answer this question, I always go to God and I trust Him wholeheartedly. And I believe without a doubt that He's going to lead me to where I need to be. Because, let's be real. Sometimes you're at a job that you love that job, but then it doesn't work out in the end. And you got to restart all over again. You lose the job, or the job lays you off, and then you got to go find something else. Then you're on your knees for a minute. And that's how life can be sometimes. It can knock you down. And you could feel defeated, but when you have faith with God and you have that relationship, because that's what He wants more than anything, that relationship. And when you have a relationship with Jesus and you go to Him and you talk to Him daily, you trust Him wholeheartedly and with your heart and soul, He's going to lead you to where you need to be. And I trust Him with everything. If it it was like with Job, if I lost everything today, my faith is on Christ. That's where I'm going. Because I know at the end of the day, He's got a plan for me. He's got a plan for you. And He's going to lead us to where we need to go. That's the best way I could put it.
Nice.
My faith is in Christ. And He's going to lead me to where I need to be. No matter what happens, wherever I'm at in life, the good, the bad, the ugly, my faith is on Christ. And that's where I want it to be always. I couldn't live my life without Christ.
Yep.
All right. Thank you everybody that's been watching and listening. This is a podcast, and it turned into a church. And I hope you enjoyed it, because this is a Tell Me Your Story podcast where it's unscripted. We just do our thing here. It's real people, real stories, real lies, man. This is the story, Anna. I hope you enjoyed it. Yes. If anybody wants to get in contact with you, how do they reach out to you,
Anne? I have a website. It's annutters.com, and I'm most active on Facebook, so you can find me there under Ann Utterback.
All right. Until next time, this is your host, Chris Baker, and that is Ann. Peace out.